Hello and welcome to Creation Speaks. I've titled this devotion, The Light of Man. Then Jesus spoke to them again, saying, I am the light of the world. He who follows me shall not walk in darkness, but have the light of life. In 1 John 1:5, he says, This is the message which we have heard from him and declare to you, that God is light, and in him is no darkness at all. And then in Genesis chapter 1, verses 1 and 2, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. Then God said, is how it proceeds. Then God said, let there be light. When God speaks, mountains move, the dead are raised, and new life begins. But God, who is rich in mercy, because of his great love with which he loved us, even when we were dead in our trespasses, made us alive together with Christ. Ephesians 2. He that takes that which is formless and void and makes beauty and life. He heals the brokenhearted and gives hope where all hope seems lost. When John was in prison, he sent his disciples to go ask Jesus if he was the coming one. And the response, and when John had heard in prison about the works of Christ, he sent two of his disciples and said to him, Are you the coming one, or do we look for another? Jesus answered and said to them, Go and tell John the things which you hear and see. The blind see, and the lame walk. The lepers are cleansed, and the deaf hear. The dead are raised up, and the poor have the gospel preached to them. And blessed is he who's not offended because of me. Isaiah writes, The people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. Those who dwelt in the land of the shadow of death, upon them a light has shined. That's Isaiah chapter 9, verse 2. And there in the darkest times, in a world with much pain and suffering, a land where blood had been shed and wars upon wars had trampled the earth. The earth has been trampled and crushed by the warrior's boots. The rod of the oppressor will be broken. And there in Matthew, we have fulfilled what Isaiah wrote. The people who sat in darkness have seen a great light. And from that time, Matthew says, Jesus began to preach and say, Repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. The kingdom of heaven is at hand, the hope of the nations, the hope for creation, and the hope for you and I. Turn away from that which destroys us, which destroys families and friends. Turn to Christ, the compassionate one, who can save even to the uttermost. The seed of corruption was passed to us, yet many are also capable of doing good. Though stained by our greed, selfishness, and sin, we are still made in God's image. At times you can see this, something that once was and still could be. Sometimes you see something in those close to you, a glow, a transformation, something real and something beautiful. And it does something in you, causes a peace to well up inside. Oh, you think, I want this for that person always. Those who repent and turn to the light will indeed have that forever. The kingdom of heaven is at hand. I find this verse in Isaiah interesting. If you extend your soul to the hungry and satisfy the afflicted soul, then your light shall dawn in the darkness, and your darkness shall be as the noonday. Jesus told us that if we believe in him, rivers of living water will flow out of our hearts. Real life is not about building yourself up and making yourself look good. Isaiah says something beautiful in the same dialogue. You shall be like a watered garden, and like a spring of water whose waters do not fail. This is what I want. How about you? A beautiful watered garden. It all started with a garden when God spoke, and it will end in a garden. Or should I say, of that day, it will be the beginning of all beginnings. Jesus is the one to rescue us. Yes, John, he's the one. So go tell Sean, Lindy, Joe, Sue, Steve, Rob, Paul, Luke, Josh, and on and on. Yes, this is the one. And he says, follow me. And in Proverbs it says, the generous soul will be made rich, and he who waters will be watered himself. That's Proverbs 11:25. Thanks for joining me today. May your day be blessed.